BETUS.
My daddy's podcast.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. There's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? It is yours truly, Timothy J. Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Hope you're having a good Sunday morning so far, Sunday afternoon, wherever you're checking out this podcast. I really do appreciate it. Shouts out to you. On this edition, we're going to be breaking down the Saints Week 4 matchup. The Saints head to Atlanta to take on their bitter rivals, the Atlanta Falcons. And the New Orleans Saints are going into this game versus the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, to say that they are understaffed, undermanned would be an understatement. I mean, the New Orleans Saints have been decimated by injuries this past week. The injury report on Wednesday, I mean, it was a laundry list of guys, and it was some very, very important New Orleans Saints players. But this game should be exciting. It always is, man. Saints versus Falcons. And I don't need to hype anybody up. Everybody knows what this game means. The Falcon fans, they like to give the Saints crap. Saints fans like to give Falcon fans crap. This record that everybody's talking about, the overall record, 55-55. I mean, we know that these teams are pretty equally matched throughout the years. Even though I would say over the last 25 years, the Saints been whooping up on the Falcons, but that's just my opinion. I mean, I just think that the whole overall record, to me, is just for the Falcons to feel like they have a leg to stand on. But speaking of legs to stand on, do the Saints have a leg to stand on in Week 4 versus the Atlanta Falcons? Look, like the Atlanta Falcons or not, they're still a really good football team, man. They've improved in certain areas that they needed to improve. They got a really good secondary. They got some really good defensive players. They're a bend but not break defense. And they also have Kirk Cousins as their quarterback. You know, Kirk Cousins, Week 1, he kind of didn't look the part, still like he was dealing with an injury. But over the last couple of weeks, he has come on. And you also have the offense of the Atlanta Falcons seem like they're finding their stride, the chemistry between Kirk Cousins and Drake London. It seemed like it's starting to get there. You even had Kyle Pitts had a big play versus the Kansas City Chiefs. But Bijan Robinson is the straw that stirs the drink. This young kid is incredible. Reminds me a lot of Alvin Kamara, a very young version of him. He has really good vision, really good elusivity. And, he can catch the ball out of the backfield, man. He can do it all. And then you combine Tyler Algier, who is more of the battering ram, the guy that can wear down your defensive line. Looking across the board when it comes to the injuries, we know that Alvin Kamara is dealing with a hip and rib injury. He has a broken rib, according to Saints reporter Nick Underhill, but he's going to give it a go. I have nothing but respect for Alvin Kamara. The fact that he is trying to give it a go in a contract year, playing with a broken rib, this could be something that could keep him out for a long period of time. But this goes to show you where his focus is. He's trying to give his all to this football team. You also had Chris Olave's name, who came up on the injury list later on in the week, dealing with a hamstring. He's questionable, but more than likely he is going to give it a go. Look, I think that Chris Olave more than likely will be on a snap count. So that leaves Rashid Shaheed to be your number one guy in this game. And that means that other guys are going to have to step up. Mason Tipton, a guy who was, everybody was singing his praises in the offseason during training camp, talking about his speed, talking about his ability. I think that the New Orleans Saints are probably going to take a deep shot down the field with Mason Tipton in this game. I think that he'll probably serve more as that Rashid Shaheed role because everybody says the guy can fly. So we'll see in this game, and he'll get more opportunities. And also Bub Means, man. We haven't really heard from Bub Means over the last few weeks, probably because of the wide receiver rotation. But with injuries to like Cedric Wilson, I expect for him to be able to come in and maybe do a little something. You know, you got to be able to use your young guys. This is the reason why you decided to keep them on the team. This is the reason why you drafted them. So these young guys are going to have to stand up. But this is also a reality that we've been facing for quite a while now when it comes to the New Orleans Saints in depth. I know I've had several shows here on the State of the Saints podcast when I discussed the Saints being very top heavy at the wide receiver position. If something was to happen to Chris Olave, if something was to happen to Rashid Shaheed, how would the Saints be able to kind of navigate themselves through that, right? You're asking, Chris Olave to go out there with a hamstring injury. Hopefully it's nothing really serious, but if he goes out there and try to give it a go and he gets hurt again, then you might find yourself being without him for a few weeks. So the Saints have to be really, really careful with that. But you also got to be able to utilize these young guys. They're going to have to step up. It's good that they are really good in a blocking game. Mason Tipton, he was out there because, they believed in his blocking ability. Cedric Wilson was out there. Didn't really get too many targets, mostly out there because of blocking. But you got to be able to get these young guys involved, man, and instill some level of confidence in them. And then also the running game. Last week versus the Philadelphia Eagles, the New Orleans Saints couldn't really run the football as well, man, as we've seen over the last few weeks against the Carolina Panthers and against the Dallas Cowboys. And me personally, I just feel like offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak didn't open his bag as much as he did in those first 2 weeks. So hopefully the New Orleans Saints can be able to utilize some type of exotic play, some motion, and also the addition of Taysom Hill coming back. He missed the game versus the Philadelphia Eagles. That will be able to help. Having Alvin Kamara run the ball 29 times, I just think that was a horrible game plan. Don't know why you just had Jamal Williams run the ball one time and you just basically just gave the Philadelphia Eagles a heavy dose of Alvin Kamara. Now, I think that Alvin Kamara, the more touches he gets, the more successful he gets, but you also need some complementary backs. I didn't really see too many things like Rashid Shaheed lining up in the backfield. I didn't really see too much motion of them moving around with Rashid Shaheed or moving Alvin around. So hopefully they take a look at the tape against Philly last week and they try to get back to the things that made them successful the first 2 weeks, because they're going to need to find ways in order to confuse the Atlanta Falcons in this game if they are going to win it. The Falcons are dealing with injuries themselves. They got 2 offensive linemen that are missing, just like the Saints with Eric McCoy and Cesar Ruiz, 2 starting guys, 2 of the best offensive linemen the Saints have. But the Atlanta Falcons will be without Caleb McGarry and also Drew Dalman, their center. So you're missing your right tackle and you're missing your center. So this is kind of like the same type of issues, right, when it comes to the offensive line. So you would expect for the defensive lines to try to take advantage of that on both sides. The New Orleans Saints seem like they're going with the dynamic duo of Carl Granderson and Chase Young. We know that the question was asked during the week about Cam Jordan getting a little bit of a downtick on his snaps. That just tells you that these young guys, Chase Young and Carl Granderson, are getting after it. When it comes to Chase Young, want to see him be able to get pressure on Kirk Cousins. This isn't like the game last week versus Jalen Hurts, where you can kind of be afraid of the fact that maybe, he can move around, maybe get a first down, scramble a little bit. We know that Kirk Cousins is a stationary target. So with that, you got to be able to win your matchups on the offensive line, and hopefully you can get him down on the ground. I mentioned Kirk Cousins, dealing with that Achilles injury, him not being 100% when it comes to that, you can tell. So I want the New Orleans Saints, if they're going to win this game, to exploit that. All right, you got to be able to win that matchup. So Carl Granderson has been playing great as of late, getting sacks in his last 2 games. Well, all 3 games he's had a sack. And also Chase Young, who hasn't really, piled them up when it comes to the stat column, when it comes to sacks, but he has been disruptive. And he also has caused these other guys to be able to find success getting the quarterbacks on the ground. Brian Brzee, he is going to have to get pressure on Kirk Cousins up the middle as well. Like I mentioned, Drew Dalman is not playing in this game. So Brian Brzee is going to have to take advantage of going up against that backup center. As far as the offensive line of the New Orleans Saints, don't know exactly what the lineup is going to be. You had Lucas Patrick, who moved over to center when Eric McCoy went down in the game against the Eagles. And then they brought in Ali Udoh, who was on the left side. And then they kind of moved Ali Udoh to the right side and also added Nick Saldiveri into the game. But they did activate Shane Lemieux, who was on the practice squad. They moved him up to the active roster. Don't know if he's going to play guard. Don't know if he's going to play center. Now, we'll see when the game starts, but more than likely, they'll probably keep Lucas Patrick at center because of his experience. He has a little bit more experience and a little bit more success at center than Shane Lemieux did. So maybe they'll probably move him to guard, or maybe they'll have Nick Saldiveri play left guard and have Ali Udoh play right guard. We'll see, but they're going to have to find some type of, combination to be able to protect Derek Carr. We know Derek Carr, he needs a little bit of a clean pocket. He gets a little bit of happy feet when it comes to, when he gets pressure and he tries to throw the ball, like it kind of speeds up, and that's when mistakes start to happen. So the New Orleans Saints are going to have to be able to protect Derek Carr. They're going to have to be able to make sure that they give him time. But you also got to get back to the running game. We know that when you run the football, that sets up the play action, and you'll be able to make explosive plays down the field. You got to be able to shut down Bijan Robinson. He is the straw that stirs the drink. I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, you got to be able to stop him. He wasn't able to find that much success against the Kansas City Chiefs, so you best believe that they're going to be trying to utilize him in a different way. Offensive coordinator Zach Robinson is probably going to be trying to use Bijan, probably learn from the mistakes they did against Kansas City. So the New Orleans Saints are going to have to be ready. Now, Kirk Cousins, I'm not going to disrespect him in any way, shape, or form. He is a guy who can, who can make plays. He is a guy, who can go out there and win the game with his arm. So throwing the football is going to be something that they're going to do. I'm not going to say that they're not going to run, they're not going to throw the football. I just think that when it comes to it, they want Bijan Robinson to be active, because that's when you start to confuse the defense. So all in all, the Saints are going to have to neutralize this running game. They kind of run something similar to what the New Orleans Saints do with this wide zone. So you shut down the running game. You try to get pressure on Kirk Cousins. That is the key. As far as with the New Orleans Saints, once again, these young players are going to have to step up. You're going to have to get the running game involved by not just using Alvin Kamara, but using Taysom Hill and also using Jamal Williams as well. So all in all, who do I think is going to win this football game? To me, this is going to be a tough matchup for the New Orleans Saints, dealing with all of the injuries. I mentioned Eric McCoy being injured, Cesar Ruiz being injured. You got Demario Davis being injured. I mean, this is going to be tough for the New Orleans Saints. But look, I just think somehow the New Orleans Saints can get it done. I think that this game was going to be tough, even if you had all hands on deck. The Saints are behind the 8 ball a little bit when it comes to, the battle of attrition. But I just think that they can do enough defensively. You still have some guys on the defensive side of the ball that can be able to get the ball back to your offense. And Derek Carr is going to have to be able to step up, man. Like, this is the reason why the New Orleans Saints brought him in. This is the reason why, they felt like they could pay him, because he has this leadership. But, you're going to have to win this football game, man. You're going to have to put this team on your back today and also be able to instill some confidence in some of these young guys and let them know that you're going to need them down the stretch. Because I just don't think that they're going to really utilize Chris Olave as much. They're going to kind of err on the side of precaution when it comes to him. Rashid Shaheed, I expect for him to have a better outing than he did last week versus the Eagles not having a single catch. I expect for him to be involved, but they're going to be paying close attention to Shaheed because of his the downfield threat of Shaheed. So that means Mason Tipton, Bud Means, these guys are going to have to step up. And also the tight ends. So Juwan Johnson has got to step up. Foster Monroe, they got to be able to step up. Has to be a collective effort if the New Orleans Saints are going to get out of here with a victory. But I think they can do enough to win this game by 3. Blake Groupie with a late field goal. I got the New Orleans Saints winning this football game by 3. But I would love to hear from you. What do you think about the Saints versus the Atlanta Falcons? What are the keys to victory for the New Orleans Saints? Do you think that the Saints have too much of an uphill climb to win this football game? Comment down below, like and share this video. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Once again, my name is Timothy J. Jones. You can follow me on X at TJAYJones8. Also, you can check out previous episodes right here on YouTube. All right, make sure that you check out the NFC Roundtable every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Make sure that you check it out. We do it every Tuesday. Myself, Smitty, James, and Clay, man, we get it in, man. We have a really good time over there. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Till next time, all I gotta say is, who dat?
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. There's all dog around this mug. I'm good.